I try to make it more smooth that time. We'll have to edit one that isn't only in vertical. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. Happy Wednesday. How are you doing?
Happy Wednesday. Doing good.
This
Doing
is my
good.
protein smoothie du jour because I'm running late today.
What protein are you on?
Well, I do I'm actually I go light on the whey right now because of my digestive issues. So
Tummy issues.
it's kefir. Yeah, exactly. My baby tummy gets messed up. It's kefir, egg whites, and then I do like for flavor, I add a little bit of whey protein. I add like I used to do like 2 scoops or something like that, but now I just do like half a scoop, and then I do a little bit of peanut butter in there, and so it does
Mm.
give me like some protein to kind of start. But obviously, I eat so much protein the rest of the day that I don't know,
Yeah.
like
You don't really have to supplement it when you're actually including it in your diet.
right, because I eat. I mean, fans will know I eat a lot of steak and eggs every day,
Steak
so
and
you
eggs
know.
every day.
Absolutely. So I've been really excited to talk to you about this because I have so many opinions about it, and
Oh
obviously, like
gosh.
everyone on the internet has talked about Mark Zuckerberg's
Oh yeah.
announcement, and then him on Joe Rogan. Did you have a chance to listen at all?
I didn't see the Joe Rogan video, but I did
Okay.
see his. I don't even know where he originally put it out on. I saw it on Instagram where it looks like he's like sitting in some random booth at a restaurant and
Oh
talk.
yeah.
At
Oh,
least
his
I've seen
post.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, his post.
Zuckerberg's post. Yeah,
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 that's when I saw.
yeah. So to summarize, so the post we talked about a little bit last week too. Like he made a post basically saying like we're going to do all these changes, and he's sort of playing it like he's like always been a free speech advocate, and that this was always his mission. And I just think so. Okay, so his statement was brilliant, masterful. Like I'm not, I don't believe him, or I mean, to be clear, like I don't really buy it. I have some opinions. I have some reservations about like sort of what he's saying, but like it was such a smart thing because most normal people are going to listen to that and be like, "Oh yeah, I agree with all that stuff."
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it makes a
yeah.
ton of sense. And I love the community notes thing. I actually think that's a really good idea because that to me has been like that is positive on X or Twitter is the community notes feature, and I think that it does sort of allow like other people to jump in the conversation that are smart. So I don't hate that he's doing that, and I think that is kind of like a win for the internet. But I mean, it's like this guy. It's like almost like we just forgot over the last like 8 years all of the things that
How
just
much
happened.
censorship, yeah,
Yeah,
has
I mean,
happened.
well, and like even no matter what politics you have, I I I mean they were like blatant. They were like saying and outwardly like talking about how they were censoring, and he's just sort of glossing over. He's not like saying my bad for all that. He's just saying like, oh, the government. I feel like he's implying, and in the interview with Joe Rogan, he implies that the government started it,
Forced him to do it.
and he implies that it started around COVID, which is like, bro, like no,
It
this has
started
been
way
happening
before that.
way before that, and mostly it's like I don't know, like I like in the beginning, I even like frankly like I kind of agreed with what they were doing. Like it's like I don't necessarily want a bunch of Nazis on there or whatever. Like that's not obviously the Facebook experience. I was empathetic, but for this is like the 100th time that this motherfucker comes on here and starts like lying. I don't know. I don't get animated about many things, but it's like so frustrating. It's like right in your face, and he just glosses over the parts that he's absolutely accountable for. And then when he brought up, like, this was infuriating. He brought up in the Joe Rogan interview, he brought up the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau, and they described it as like Elizabeth Warren's thing, and he described it as some kind of like witch hunt, and he didn't know why they were getting involved in his business. Like he had a crypto coin. They were at the time they were talking about I mean, I know you're younger than me, so you probably weren't like aware of all the things that were going on, but he was like at the time Facebook Marketplace was growing crazy fast, especially around the time of COVID, because people weren't shopping as much. And so
Mm-hmm.
like it was like exploding where you could buy shit, all kinds of stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And the reason I know that is because obviously we manage advertising, and that placement was like all of a sudden getting tons of awareness. It would get impressions. We were like, what the hell's going on? And then like, 6 months later, they were talking about numbers about Facebook Marketplace being, one of the most one of the where money is exchanged and things like that. And so he was getting into, the Bitcoin thing and or I'm sorry, I should say cryptocurrency thing, and the NFT thing had a financial component, and the marketplace had a financial component. And he was like, and so in this thing, him pretending like he didn't know why the consumer protections.
Yep.
And like that organization, I'm not saying they're great, but the whole organization is not designed. It's getting him. The point of it is getting him for the little guy. Like they're protecting us against him abusing it, because he's a giant. He has a ton of power, and like the reason they were investigating him was to make sure he wasn't abusing it to, like, again, like I don't necessarily like agree with the organization, or I don't love the idea of like the government like getting all involved, but like just to be clear, he knew exactly why they were investigating him, and he was fully aware, and he was probably doing tons of inappropriate shit in terms of like monopoly type of things. And in his interview again with Joe Rogan, he talked about like Apple controlling the rails. Like this guy doesn't also control the rails. Yes, he has open source platforms and things like that, but he controls his own rails. And if he could have invented a phone, which they tried to do, he would he
would have
like,
taken it and ran with it.
Yeah, 100%. Like you're not fooling anybody, man.
I know.
And
it's I just didn't enjoy the like placing the blame on the government when like you had just as much. Sure, maybe it was their idea, but you're the one who carried out the act. So
and it reeks
by you doing that, you are agreeing with what the government is saying. Like you agreed with that action because you did it.
Exactly. And absolutely, like I totally understand. Like I get where he's coming from as a business owner. I think any business owner gets what he's doing. He's playing the game, right? Like you got to do it, and that's what they need him to do. If you're a shareholder of Meta, which I mean, people should be, because it's a friggin' monopoly, and they for the same reasons that Apple, that he was shitting all over Apple or whatever, like for their like 30% fee on the App Store and stuff. In the same way that they do that, Meta controls the rails in many different ways. He does the same stuff that he was complaining about. He also, there's a part in the Joe Rogan interview where he sort of alludes to the fact that they're just going to buy up the competition. Anybody who comes around, they're just going to buy up anybody who's making up the space and control the market. It's like, brother, that's exactly what you've done with social media. Like I was there when you bought Instagram. I was there when you tried to, not, I wasn't there, of course. I just mean that like I was
in the
alive.
room with them, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Mark. No, but I was watching, and I made videos about it when he was trying to buy Snapchat, and when he bought Instagram, and when they made all these investments. And so for him to pretend like he's like this working class guy that's for the little guy,
that's like in the background. Like, no, you're not some small business owner. Like you are the business owner that
he's doing,
like
exactly. He's doing all the lobbying, and this just reeks of him following the politics. Like he obviously sees the new administration coming in, and also like, who is his PR guy? Because
I know
that guy,
they need a raise, deserve a raise,
dude. Like give this person. I mean, I need it. I mean, geez,
some
man.
of my favorite memes to come out of it, at least like on my For You pages, that are catered towards me, are like when you start drinking raw milk, taking all of the supplements, and actually eating protein. And I was like, yeah, because he doesn't look like a ghost anymore. He actually looks like, because people are like, oh, Zuck's back to his real self, like, because he doesn't look like an alien anymore. He's looking pretty scary, man, there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he did look like he did look scary, and he was like, he just follows. He's just so transparently following the trends,
Yes.
and like just
Blindly
completely, yeah, exactly, blindly jumping into whatever. Like
to
he's
appease the
seen the way the
masses.
wind is blowing, and he's just pointing that direction. I mean, even his haircut, it's
I
just
know.
it's a perfect. I don't want to attack the guy for the way he looks. Like I felt a little uncomfortable like calling him an alien even back then. He did look a little alien or whatever, but those clips he was like in Congress, and I think that was probably like pretty fucking scary. And I bet he was like, got a new haircut. You know
Just
what I
for
mean?
that moment. And
Yeah,
then he
yeah,
gets
absolutely.
dogged by the entire
Yeah, yeah. And
internet.
there's everyone's like, dude, you look like a fucking alien, dude. You fucking loser. And everyone's like, so I felt bad for him in that original one. But
Oh,
again, not
I've
so
never felt
bad.
bad for the guy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I felt empathetic to sitting there in Congress, and they were like grilling him, and they were, I don't know if you remember that, when they were like asking him. They just had to, they just, the Congress sounded like when you're grandma. I don't know. When I was a kid, when my grandma was like trying to learn how to use the voicemail machine or whatever, and it was just like, I don't understand the internets, and it reeked of their questions. All just sounded like total out of touch.
No
What
idea what's going
exactly? Of
on.
course, because
Yeah.
they're in their 70s and 80s. That's
Yeah.
why it sounded like that. But anyways, so I felt a little bit empathetic, even though I know he was guilty. I felt like, oh man, this poor guy. But now I feel like, man, you're so clearly like butthurt that Elon Musk and Joe Rogan are friends, and Elon Musk has the zeitgeist right now because Zuckerberg had it. He was like the hip tech guy for so long, and then he was like not hip, and he was like, shit, what can I do? Red pill, He was just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing jujitsu, and then I'm gonna go on Joe Rogan, and I'm gonna have cool hair now, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna. He stinks of a total sheep. You
Yes.
know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah. Because now he realizes like that the following that he has on social media is so curated, like, or not following, I guess, like the support that he has from the world, right? Like,
Mm.
he's not very liked anymore outwardly. At some point, it was, everyone, and now it's not anymore. So I think now he's realizing that, and he's trying to appease the actual largest group, right? Because if you go on TikTok, you think, oh, everyone is all for like the old Zuck, right? Very, very leaning that way. And now, with the election results coming out, you realize that that's really only happening in the internet space. That's not happening in real life. So I think now it's finally brought to his attention, and he's trying to get back, like you said, a red pill. That's
So
really
did
all it
you
was.
have you seen that this is being reported like all over the place, that so I just Googled it in the other window here, from Bloomberg, from Wall Street Journal. China is considering selling TikTok to Elon Musk. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that one specifically, but I thought you were going to talk about Red Note.
What is that?
That is the actual Chinese version of TikTok, and it's the number one trending app in the United
Oh,
States right now because it's completely in Mandarin. Everything is in Mandarin. It's like the current trend is to download Red Note and start using it. And there's like user rules like between the Chinese and between the United States, and the United States users are actually helping the Chinese users with their English homework, and American users are learning Mandarin, and it's a real thing. And it's actually like the complete fear of what they think was going to happen with TikTok is actually happening now with Red Note because it's completely Chinese owned. And
whoa.
a lot of people are claiming that when you go to log in on Red Note, it doesn't ask you for your information because they already have it. But I don't know that for certain. That's just what I heard because I refuse to download it. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah, it's a
crazy.
thing.
It says what to. Yeah, I just looked it up. It's on USA Today and CNN. Sudden influx of U.S. users to Red Note. Red Note gains traffic ahead of TikTok ban, but sparks consent and control. Well, I was going to make the point. So something to consider that I think is kind of interesting when it says this. Like, let's just look at these headlines. I'm trying to because this is a new tool. I'm trying to screen share. So just give me a second because I wanna make this point. Um, okay, let's try it. Here we go. It's happening. Here we go.
Okay.
So this is why America's pretty rad. So I'm just Googling this and look at like the name of these titles. China weighs sale. China officials discuss option. So like the Americans don't get to decide who you sell. Like the USA doesn't decide who you sell your company to. Like, isn't it fascinating that ByteDance isn't even in these headlines? Like,
I
isn't
don't know.
that ByteDance is who actually owns
Oh,
TikTok?
yeah.
And they're not saying ByteDance is considering. They're saying China is considering selling
Yeah.
TikTok. The country itself is considering selling TikTok. Like, that is fascinating. And the idea that they would pick Elon Musk, who already, like, I don't hate Elon, or whatever. Like, I think there's plenty of things that he does that are cool. I don't think that he's, I'm not, but I'm also like, there's obviously like he does work with China already. In terms of like he has like a good working relationship with the country. But I think it's fascinating that it doesn't say ByteDance in any of these headlines. Is that
Yeah,
kind of
like
interesting?
China isn't the one who actually owns it. Like the country as a whole doesn't own it. It is owned
Well,
by
I
a
mean, I
company.
think that's kind of the evidence that the country is the one that owns it. I mean, like, if I wanted to sell my company, the USA literally is not allowed to tell me who I sell it to. Like they can't say no or
Or yeah,
something.
but that's American reporters. So is that just the way it's being reported by American
Potentially.
authorities that they just want
That's a
to
good
make
question.
it sound like it's so daunting that it is fully in China's control, not just in the control of a company?
That's a great point. That's a great point. You can't trust the headlines. We know
Yeah.
that as well as anyone. We write them for a living.
I make them up. Just kidding.
You never know, man. I mean, these days you got to read. It's like it's a full-time job trying to stay up with it.
It's really just a lot of it now is you got to read between the lines.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you this. I think that that as far as like from a marketing and advertising perspective, I think that either TikTok or like TikTok, I wouldn't delete your account, I guess is number one. Like
Yeah,
that's I think
no.
my main point, which we talked about last week. But just in general, it does not I still remain skeptical that we're gonna wake up in 4 days. Is that right? When they're gonna be shutting it down, supposedly the 19th or something like that, I think. Or whatever day it is. I guess let me just Google it here real
I think
quick.
it is the 19th. But I mean, I just saw this morning that Mr. Beast is talking about buying it now too. So who knows? But again, you can want to buy it all you want, but are they going to sell it?
Right. And what does that even mean? Because I mean, like even if you did, I mean, I don't know, like the I overall I don't love the idea of us banning products and stuff like that. I wish that we would attack these things differently than always like to me like banning, I think just as a general principle, my personally, I'm not really like I don't ever love the idea of prohibition.
Yeah.
Like this is illegal, I mean, it reminds me of like marijuana, it reminds me of like alcohol, of course, and things like that, where I named my son Jasper because Jack Daniels is my favorite American businessman because he started his business when it was it was illegal to do his business, and then just rode that way. He's just a criminal, and then played it cool long enough to become sort of a household name.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I don't know. In general, I think like prohibition is a fool's errand. You're never going to be able to say. So I don't love the idea of them banning it in this way. I wish they would approach it differently. I don't know, with
No,
potentially
I
like
agree because I
awareness
think
or
that's
whatever.
why banning things is when you get like a revolt, right? Like telling people that they can't do something that they want. There's people who aren't going to accept that. People don't like being told what to do, what they can or can't do, right?
Yeah.
Like this. I mean, there was a joke yesterday that I saw about like a mom talking about Like, did anyone in Congress talk to like the moms of 20-some-year-olds now when we try to take away their phones and they did they didn't need their phone, they found out a way to communicate regardless. Like, if you tell people they can't do something, they're going to find a way to make sure that they can still do it. That's why now Red Note is popular, because now you have the exact situation that you were afraid of happening, that the Chinese government owns all your data. Now you just ensured that happened because you try to completely ban it, rather than finding a middle ground where you appease and, people are always going to find a way around it.
You end up creating a new problem. I think, it's sort of like, it reminds me of the Gatorade. I'm sorry, the Gatorade, not Gatorade. I think that let me check if this is true. I think this is true. That it's because we're actually live. I want to make sure I'm not completely lying out of my ass. But I think that love bugs were created by the University of Florida by accident.
Excuse me?
Did you know that?
No.
Oh, according to the UCF, it says they are not that I was fooled. That was just a rumor.
You made that up.
Yeah, I totally made that up. They are not the consequence of genetic engineering at UF. They are a normally introduced species, but so meaning they aren't in their original range. All right, so it's not like that. I made that up. I used to always like, I've told that to people all the time. So I'm glad I looked that up.
Zuck would be proud that you fact checked yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Look at me using the internet. Yeah. Good thing I didn't spread that rumor. No, when I was a kid,
you'd be banned.
That was what everyone always said, was that like they had created it. It does look like obviously the rumor exists because they're mentioning it on the University of Florida.
Yeah.
So
clearly that was
I'm not the only one. They were like, we're getting too much bad press about creating the love bug. That's funny. It's probably created by somebody from Florida State.
Yeah.
They just wanted to stick it to the Gators. Well, yeah. So it's not like that. It's not like the love bugs, but that happened to me. I used to tell this story. Have I ever told a story about the lobster?
I don't think so.
All right. So whenever I'm training someone in a new job and they're like, oh, I hate this job, this sucks, I always describe the story of the lobster. And I say, like, when a lobster is ready for a new shell and it feels like it's trying to get out of that shell, it feels very uncomfortable, and that's how it knows to like start grinding through it and grind harder and harder, and then it gets out of its shell and then it creates a new shell after, I think it's called molting or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to tell that story all the time. Probably for like 8 years I would tell that story to people when I was training them. And then one day I told that story on a podcast and someone left a comment and they were like, that's not true, even a little bit true. And they sent a bunch of articles talking about how that's not what happens with lobsters. They don't feel uncomfortable. So that was all another time where I was spreading misinformation. I'm glad I told that story live on the internet to just spread more information again.
I love doing that, actually. I love I don't make things up. I just believe in my mind that they might be true, and then I take it and I run with it. And then I start telling people, but I do always include the disclaimer, I don't know, I might have made that up. But then people still believe me. It's because you have the confidence in what you're saying. That's why. Like, if you are like, yes, I know this for sure, and it's the complete lie, but you're like, yes, this is true, people are going to believe you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes I really mess up.
Yeah, sure. Have you seen the movie Big Fish?
Mm-mm.
No,
I'm not a movie girl. I don't like
fair enough.
Movies aren't my thing.
Well, this one is from I don't know, probably around the 2000s sometime, and it's like about a guy who like tells his son stories about like it's sort of like the idea of like, I went out and I caught a fish that was this big, and the fish just over time just gets kind of bigger and bigger and bigger, and then eventually it's like, I caught a giant shark that was 10 feet wide or whatever. And the kid like realizes that his dad, and he's like gets real mad at his dad because he's just like lying to him all the time. And then it's a very like I don't know, spoiler alert, but it's a 25-year-old movie probably. It eventually in the end he realizes, that there's some charm in telling the stories and whatever, and sort of loves it. I think that's kind of the moral of the story is that it's okay to have the fish get bigger sometimes or whatever, like tell the story. So I still tell the lobster story. I just, at the end, I usually reveal that that's not true at all.
Just, hey, by the way, that's actually not how it
Yeah,
works for lobsters.
don't
Well,
share
I
that
liked
joke.
it. I would have
Yeah,
believed it.
yeah, it's
But
very
okay, but can
motivational.
you turn it into a crab? Like, do lobsters not molt? Maybe,
Yeah, or
or
maybe
they
like a
do.
snake. I should just pivot it to like a snake, but the snake isn't like very relatable. A lobster,
Yeah,
because of the Little Mermaid, a lobster is a little bit more lovable. Maybe I
yeah.
thought,
I
but
wouldn't like the story if you said a snake. I'll be
yeah,
honest,
yeah, because there's something.
because no one wants to be a snake,
Yeah, I don't know anyone who really wants to be a snake. Although I
and it
do
has
have a
like
couple friends that like them, but
um, oh, like actual snakes. But I'm
yeah,
talking about in terms of like being called a snake nowadays means like you
yeah.
know like you're
I think
sketchy, you're a snake,
yeah.
can't be trusted.
I think for that's like ingrained in most of us that the snake is like it's kind of like spiders too. There's just something sort of like inherently,
Yeah, like
we're not supposed to
about
mess
them.
with those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. So, is there anything else going on in the news that you know of? I don't know. I can't think of anything else.
Mm, not that I know of. I mean, there is a lot, but we won't go into a lot.
Yeah, yeah, there's plenty of rabbit holes to go down. Well, I guess we should get to work then. So
I
we
guess
can
so.
call it a day today. Well, thanks for tuning in for the morning meeting.
See y'all later.
Oh, see, I don't know how to do this yet. Still getting better and